the whole city where these roads are has been turned into a bazaar. As it is, the entire Karachi Shehr is a bazaar. There is no space in our city which we can say that yes, this is for residential use, this is industrial, this is commercial. We have CNG stations coming up in residential areas. We have motor car showrooms, we have restaurants, we have banks, we have radio shops, we have TV shops, we have photocopiers. I mean, each and every activity which is not in consonance with the residential use of the property is done.
A few of the roads are obviously commercialized, yeah, and few portions are not. Now commercialization is being allowed on those areas also. Exclusive commercialization of one or two plots. This is going to be another disaster that we are going to face in the next few years. Now I have in this area, in a close proximity on the streets which are not commercialized, 3 instances here which have been commercialized by the city Nazim. The NOCs has been denied by the Union Council Nazim, they have been denied by the commercialization committee, the master plan committee of the city district government, and then all these recommendations have been overruled by the city Nazim to allow commercialization of these exclusive plots. And this clearly shows an element of corruption.
See, there is no one way in which cities develop. Different cities develop differently. There are 3 broad ways in which cities have developed. One is that they muddle through. So, as problems arise, decisions are taken, monitoring takes place, then new problems arise, you deal with them as they come. So that's one way, and many cities have developed like that. Bangkok has developed like that, Manila has developed like that. The other way is that when development has taken place and it is chaotic, you introduce projects in key places, and those projects bring about a change in the city's environment, and then slowly those projects, they expand into other areas around the project areas. This is what is known today as urban acupuncture. And the third is where you have a planning authority, you have a plan, you have rules, regulations that are sacrosanct. Now, I have no problems with any of these 3. Karachi's development was supposed to take place as a result of the third option. But in all 3 cases, you need monitoring and you need decisions to be taken from time to time, and for that you need an effective planning agency. In the absence of a planning agency, none of these 3 things can possibly work.
In my time in 2004, land use policy was framed for the entire city, keeping in view the proposed master planning of the city. But unfortunately, my tenure was completed in 2005. And naturally, I could not get enough time to implement those laws of land use. But thereafter, when I finished my tenure, I think the land use policy was made redundant in the city, as if there was no land use policy at all.
Although the various master plans that have been made over the years, the 1974 master plan, the master plan 2000, they have addressed this issue of growing commercialization in the city, and they have made some recommendations, particularly in the 1974 plan. There was the recommendation for developing sub-centers where commercial activity could be accommodated, but they have not been implemented. And what is happening now is what we can term as ribbon development or strip development of commercial enterprises. This has having a very adverse impact on the environment. It is not only affecting the environment surrounding the major traffic corridors, but what is happening is that this commercialization is penetrating inward into the residential areas, into the blocks behind the major corridors, and for this no planning of course has been done. So it's not just that the traffic corridors, the major roads are being affected, the surrounding areas are also being affected adversely.
Now we see that people have been approaching us to put up barriers and almost every other alley, because they feel that on the main road this is commercialization. Suppose there is a car showroom and he has 50 cars, he has only 4 car space in his showroom, and then other 45 are on the street, on the we can see on the footpaths there are cars, and they don't remain on the main roads or the commercialized road. Obviously they park their cars into the streets and alleys, and the people are coming and going and they are unidentified basically. So the problem is that the people have been asking for security reasons to put up barriers in every other alley, and this is another problem that that seems that people are now living in prison or what, they cannot move around in the streets.
This commercial activity has resulted in pavements disappearing. Citizens have no pavements to walk on. Generators have taken over. Vendors have taken it. Cars are parked. The shops are extended on these pavements. Each and everybody uses the pavement for an extension of their own commercial activity, except the pedestrian for whom it is meant to be. Houses and apartments are sandwiched between shops. Children have no play area. There is no place where they can cycle. There is no place where they can play. And yet, our lawmakers, they're oblivious. They're absolutely blind to the nonsense that they are doing to the city.
I think it is very unfair for the ordinary resident as far as commercialization is concerned. I think these things, these views can be verified by any ordinary dweller in PCHS or in any of the neighborhoods in Clifton, because when commercialization happens, there is a direct intrusion in the privacy and the usual activities that are performed in residential areas. And this actually refers to a policy and implementation failure on the part of the government. If areas have to commercialize, it should be taken up as a holistic policy, and these spot or ribbon commercialization should be fully curbed, because they neither provide the necessary type of facilitation for the investors, nor are they acceptable or useful for the residents who are there. And often the whole sense of neighborhood is broken down, and it is likely to turn into a slum area or an area which has degraded urbanization.
The commercialization is no doubt is an important process, but commercialization should always be linked with the upgradation of the services of that area. See, I'm very much clear about it that we have different problems in the PCHS area, because PCHS area different buildings have been commercialized, but the service delivery on our part of water and sewerage has not upgraded to that extent. When roads are commercialized, buildings are commercialized, maps are passed, approved plans or whatever is done in during this process, a good money is recovered from these peoples who are getting their buildings commercialized. But nothing is paid to Karachi Water and Sewerage Board for upgradation of the infrastructure and the services.
Each and every lane that we went to has two barriers, i.e. there is an economic pressure created on the private individuals, because who's paying for the barriers, who's paying to man those barriers? The city government is not, the builder is not, who has made money out of that project, the KBC is not, the MPGO is not, the UC Nazim, the town Nazim, the city Nazim, the city councillors, they're all involved in this scam in which you and me, the citizens, are having to bear a bigger brunt.
A city has to have a land use plan. Our major problem is that in Karachi, like in many other cities also, Karachi is not the only one, land use is decided by land value. If land use is decided by land value, then all that is happening today is bound to happen. Land use has to be decided on the basis of social and environmental considerations. And that is how every Karachi plan has been made, on social and environmental considerations, but it has never been implemented. So that is the basic issue. Now, for the implementation of a land use plan, even for a preparation of land use plan, you need effective agencies. And without that, you can have any plan you like. it's not going to work, because as the saying goes, a plan is as good as the institutions that implement it.
It basically is something that nobody seems to be doing something about. The city is developing and it is basically not according to any plan. The builders, the developers, they are determining the land uses, determining how the city has to be developed. And I think that these are issues that require consideration of the government. There is still time, I think. We can save the city, we can save the environment of the city, but the next 5 to 10 years are very crucial. We need to come up with plans, we need to come up with rules, we need to come up with regulations that reflect the reality on ground, that cater to the actual needs of the city, the residents, and that is something which has to be done on an urgent basis.